Hey, man. So I told myself that I would shoot a video, even though I don't wanna. And the reason I don't want to shoot a video is because I am very discombobulated. You guys like that word? I love that word. And it's a word that very accurately describes what it's like to be crazy. Now, I have a pretty serious mental illness, or whatever the fuck they want to call it. But I don't feel like the way that society treats mental illness especially is not positive in the slightest. I mean, all these other malfunctions, you know, like, say you have diabetes, or you have cystic fibrosis, something that doesn't have a cure, something that you just constantly need to be aware of and be on your P's and Q's about. It's like, do those people play the victim anywhere near as much as people that have like garden variety depression? I mean, I have a lot of friends that have diabetes, and not once have they ever just like tried to get me to feel sorry for them because they have to take a motherfucking insulin shot, you know? Don't you love that commercial, you know, whenever they're like, depression hurts. You know what else hurts? Your head, after I smack the shit out of you for trying to convince me I have fucking depression, even if maybe I'm just sad. I'm sad. Now, I actually do have depression, but it's whatever. Depression's nothing. Like, when you have borderline personality juxtaposed with schizophrenia, depression ain't shit. I mean, I don't understand why people whine about that one so much. Anxiety is understandable because anxiety is like, speeds up your heart rate and causes you to act like a fucking lunatic in public places. I get that. Depression seems to do the opposite. It just seems to keep you at your house. The thing is, though, I've never been, you know, positive about the world. I don't think that you're supposed to be. I don't understand why people have a positive mindset about, like, anything. I mean, first of all, there are people in this world. Do you guys know that? Do you guys remember all the people in the world that fuck up the world? Well, like, that's not going to get any better. Now, sure as shit, they have something called population control. And, it sucks, though. They can't weed out enough people. You know, I was thinking about it. I was like, you know, you should be sad. Like, aren't you angered by this shit? I'm really not. This is yesterday's coffee, by the way. Yes, I do it with iced coffee too, not just hot coffee. Does coffee go bad? I mean, I'm sure it does after like a few weeks, a few months, maybe years of sitting in that pot, it turns to shit. But if it wasn't already shit, you're assuming that the pot of coffee was originally decent. But
I want to talk about something that I've been wanting to talk about. And last night I had somewhat of an episode. That's what I call them. And I realized why they call them episodes. It's because it really is like an episode of a fucking TV show, you know? When you're real emotional and other people don't really understand it and you're always in your own world, which you know, provides you a TV show. People don't realize that. It's an upside. I guess that would be considered a positive symptom. Let's see if anybody's texted me back yet. New text message. Oh shit. We almost died, Vortex, because we were checking our phone. Maybe the law should exist. It should exist. No, my fucking mirror ain't up right. That poor guy, that was totally my fault though. It's because I wasn't paying attention. You know how sometimes the line will like start inching further and further left, kind of like what's going on now in this country, but like the lane will just sort of cut itself off, like that was happening, and somebody was trying to get in. I felt bad because they wouldn't have been able to if I hadn't paid attention last minute. But so yeah, anyway, I had an episode last night. It was a sad episode. I was crying, couldn't stop crying. One of my coworkers that I really love, her name's Teafila, she fucking left. Yesterday was her last day. She gave me a hug. And one of my other managers is probably leaving because the general manager likes this other guy more than her, which really doesn't make sense because he's nowhere near as strong of a worker as she is. She's a manager that talks like this. But she's like positively negative, if that makes any sense. It's like she's one of those people that like, and everybody is taking shit is like this. They're all positively negative, where it's like, okay, shit fucking sucks, but let's make the most out of it. Let's keep our heads up. Let's laugh about this shit rather than. I mean, well, you can still be mad, but you can, you know, make it funny. As long as you make it funny, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Well, everybody who's taking shit's got a pretty good sense of humor, and if they don't, they won't last. Period. Point blank. I have a good sense of humor. If I didn't have a good sense of humor, I wouldn't have lasted this long. Period. Point blank. I think the better sense of humor people have, like the more of an indication that they've, you know, been through some shit. You know, that's usually the case. Very rarely somebody laugh about something that I guess it seems like, oh, that's not appropriate to laugh about that. Well, if they have somewhat of a twisted sense of humor, it's probably because of the shit that they've gone through. I think that's why I'm so fucked up in the head. It's because, whoa! Bump! It's because, like, I'm feeling the fuck out of everything, man. Like, it's the abandonment shit. I was upset last night. I know that's what it was. Anytime I can't stop crying, it's usually because I think something's leaving me. So, that is one of the side effects. It's the main side effect. Or the symptom, or whatever the fuck. It's the main symptom of borderline personality disorder. Now, I've had this illness my entire life. Ever since I was a kid, like, I've always talked to myself. I've always, like, been internalizing everything. But there are two versions of this disorder, and a lot of people don't know about them. Specifically, medical profession doesn't know because medical profession doesn't want to know. In fact, the medical profession doesn't want to know shit. So, say you're on some sort of pills that are making you think about committing a violent act, you know, maybe towards yourself, maybe towards others, and you tell your shrinkity dink, and he's just like, oh, well, that's fine. Here, let me get you on more milligrams of that substance that's making you suicidal and homicidal. Let's give you more of that. or no. Let's get you on this new drug that's a lot like that other drug, but it's not that other drug. It's this drug. Yes, it's the one that the farmies are telling me that I have to sell. I have to promote this one because I do whatever the farmies tell me to do. That's my job. That's my job, is to suck the big fat dick of the pharmaceutical companies. Yeah. So I tell a lot of people, like, I can tell that they have what I've got because they're obviously going through some shit all the time, like in their head. And, you know, people, especially when they watch me do comedy, they're like, thank God you exist. I'm so grateful that you're here doing this. I feel less alone because of you. People say that on my YouTube. I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you very much for watching. I'm glad that you didn't kill yourself either. But like last night, I was suicidal. The thing is, I'm not really suicidal anymore because I found that there are like positive things that I can focus on. There are positive things I can focus on about everything, but specifically about this illness in particular, there's so many really cool things about it that I think that they get completely disregarded because of the negative things. Now, with any personality disorder, it's probably going to be, especially to the outside world, you know, like way more negative than positive. Like, we just seem crazy. We seem crazy, we seem out of focus, we seem out of balance, we can't, off balance, really out of balance, but I don't think I ever had balance. So that's accurate, you are out of balance, completely. See, I wrote this stuff down, see, I prepared. Symptoms of borderline personality, low self-awareness. They won't talk about that one. But I think that that's in cluster B. If you love self-awareness, like, you probably think very highly of yourself, right? Nobody else does, and nobody understands, like, why you feel this way. And people often ask the question, can he see himself? Can't he see what he's doing? Like, doesn't he know that this isn't gonna work out in the end for him? You know, but he can't see it because he doesn't have self-awareness. Now, Jordan Peterson thinks that borderline personality is the female equivalent of antisocial. I think that that's probably true, considering how many women are out of their fucking minds. And they're encouraged to behave this way. So this is an example. Like, this is what borderline personality disorder is. And please, Vortex, tell me, does this not accurately describe the way that so many people are behaving right now, especially women? Low self-awareness, explosive anger. That means you lash out at people. You play the blame game. You constantly talk. What is Twitter? Victim mentality. Ding, 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 ding. Boredom. Borderline is so cluster B. Cluster B is the dramatic disorders. Now, technically, histrionic would probably be more literally cluster B because histrionic is, what histrionic means is literally dramatic. But histrionics are obsessed with their image, the way that borderlines are obsessed with their image, but it's more about their physical appearance. Now, like I said, there are different variations of borderline personality. I'm a quiet borderline, which means I internalize everything. And because I internalize everything, I have a camera crew of self-awareness, constantly watching everything that I do, especially when I screw shit up. Now, the upside to this is that that camera crew is there whenever I succeed. You know, so it's like it happens over and over again. Like, I mean, it's just the smallest shit. You know, like I throw an empty container of whipped cream into the trash can and make it. It's like that's on repeat. God loves that shit. But yeah, that's the cool thing about the camera crew. They don't tell you that though, but it's hard for a long time for obvious reasons. You know, like if you internalize everything and everything's real hard for reasons that you can't understand, then having that camera crew is like your worst enemy, because naturally it's going to focus on, you know, all the really bad things. But it will also stop you from taking credit where, you know, credit is not due. Like you won't be able to get away with anything because of that camera crew. So I mean, that's why I quit drinking so early, because I just have too much self-awareness to enjoy myself. But yeah, we have a yelling, flailing conscience due to this camera crew. We have implosive anger, so we lash in. Anytime I get angry, I just fucking stew in it. I get really fucking quiet, I stew in it, and eventually I'll start crying. We have this obsession with evaluation. We constantly are looking deeper into fucking everything. It's annoying as fuck. All kinds of inner dialogue going on. Now the inner dialogue definitely makes our life interesting, to say the least. We don't get bored. It's very rare. We can always find something to entertain ourselves. We can always find something to obsess about. Now, like I said, two variations of this illness. So there's the quiet version, which is internalized, and then there's the version that everybody knows about, which is the classic version of it, which is really, really bad. Now, oh yeah, I already read that. Yeah, you did. What the fuck? But classic borderlines. Now, granted, they probably experienced some level of victimhood in their life, especially when they were a child. They probably did. But they do this for the rest of their life. They play into this idea that they're a victim, and because of that, they develop what is better known as a self-fulfilling prophecy, where they tell themselves, oh, this always happens to me, it doesn't matter, it always goes this way, this is my lot in life, this is my gloom and doom, all that. Now, if you have a personality disorder, I mean, that is somewhat true. You know, it will always be a part of your experience, like significantly. And to suggest that it isn't, or that you could get better, and what does that mean by getting better? That means taking pills. That's what that means. But it's always going to be a part of you. It's always going to be a part of that experience. This is the thing I was thinking about last night. I was like, you know, nothing could prevent this from happening. And pills make it worse because you still have all those thoughts and feelings and obsessions and miscalculations and over-analysis and excessive feeling about everything, excessive thinking about everything. You can't do anything with it because now you're on pills that they tell you to take. If you don't take them, you're going to kill yourself. Now you're even more likely to kill yourself. So a lot of borderlines commit suicide, and the reason for this is well, this piece of paper right here. So I would say that quiet borderlines would be more likely to commit suicide because we quietly do it. However, quiet borderlines joke about suicide all the time. Classic borderlines are the ones that like make threats and shit. Now, there are different crosses between the two illnesses. Like I think that you can be like a mixture of the two. Like you can have traits of being classic borderline, you can have traits of being quiet borderline. The more self-awareness you develop, the more you'll start to hone these particular defense mechanisms of the quiet borderline that will enable you to live a very separate life. Now, one of the cool things about the quiet borderline is that, you know, like, because of our self-awareness and because of our, you know, hating when people play the victim, you know, we don't ever want to be a burden on people. So we're always thinking about, like, how is this going to inconvenience somebody else? We never want to do that. People in cluster B typically do not give a fuck about that. They don't give a fuck about anybody but themselves. Do not let them fool you. If they pretend that they care about you, it's because they're trying to manipulate you or get something out of you. So, cluster B, histrionic, borderline, narcissistic and antisocial. I had another sheet. Where's that sheet? I've said with borderline personality, I think that the reason why it's called borderline is because it's so comorbid with all these other things. And like, all the disorders kind of like morph together. Like in the separate clusters, they somewhat resemble each other. And so borderlines, you know, we have a lot of narcissism. We're seemingly sociopathic, some more than others. We're seemingly histrionic, some more than others. But it's just the antisocial thing. A lot of people have a hard time with that because they're like, does this person have a conscience or not? I think that people in cluster B have a conscience, but it's very, very small. And it's really hard for people in cluster B to empathize with other people. And the low empathy is what makes them so self-centered and so like insensitive towards other people's shit. Now, people probably think that about me because of my comedy is really dark and depressing. And people probably think like, oh, she doesn't give a shit. She doesn't give a shit about rape victims. She doesn't give a shit about, I give a shit about real rape victims, honey. Not the pretend ones that send hashtags. But yeah, I probably do sound very insensitive to a lot of people, but at the same time, it's like, well, this is what I have to deal with over here. I'm internalizing everything. No matter how much I say that people are like, whoa, she's so ballsy, I can't believe she said that. It's like, that wasn't nothing for me. I say all kinds of shit. There we go.
Hi, you're closer now.
Yeah, so trash can, there it is. So I gotta get ready. I'm like totally late, but like I sent a text message, so it's okay. I will be even later. Oh, you need to write that down too. Quiet borderlines are always late. Always. Like, I have not ever met a quiet borderline that wasn't late for everything. And I think that the reason for that is because like we're on our own time schedule. Now, that's another seemingly sociopathic trait, because it's like, oh, I don't give a fuck about anybody else's time but my own. I get that. I get how that's interpreted. That's not necessarily the case, okay? We care immensely for other people. It's just very hard for us to express it. And it makes us very upset that we can't do this, which makes us suicidal. But, suicidal, that's just a feeling. Don't let it scare you. Oh, I thought about suicide. So fucking what? It just means you're a fucking human, you dumbass. I mean, personally, I think it's the most human thing to think about that, considering the fact that, you know, death is a human thing. Everybody dies. I mean, that's not just a human thing. That's just everything. Even if it's not actually alive. I mean, people think corporations are fucking people, so it's like everything dies eventually. So it makes sense to sort of obsess about that. Oh, but that's another thing. Borderline personalities are obsessed with death. Classic, quiet. All of us were all just totally obsessed with death. That's because it's interesting, and it's part of like the unknown. It's part of like that realm of intense questioning and introspective inquiry. But we, quiet borderline specifically, experience what I call a dissociation kaleidoscope, where it's like, now this is related to schizophrenia though. I didn't realize how closely until recently, but it is pretty intense. I mean, a few years ago, right before I went to the psych ward, and I checked myself in, okay? I have not been educated as mentally defective by the state, at least not yet. But my bosses were telling me, you're like, you know, you just seem like you're in a faraway place all the time. You seem like you're far gone. I'm like, oh, well, that's pretty accurate. But, these are the common things that the borderline personalities have to deal with on a regular basis, okay? The fear of abandonment, that's the most prominent one. Unstable relationships, they always have unstable relationships because of this fear of abandonment. There's really no way that relationship will be stable in any kind of way. Like, if you work on yourself and that other person works on themselves and you guys do it together, like this one thing, I have a friend of mine, she and her husband seem like they're happy, but I know that they struggle, but they're willing to struggle together. That's the thing. A lot of people are just, they very easily give up on each other. But these friends of mine do not. They stick it out. But yeah, it's very hard to have a stable relationship and be a borderline personality, because you are constantly going to be obsessing about things. You're going to be overly emotional about everything, and people in cluster B are very possessive too. That's another thing I probably should have mentioned on this little sheet, but we have a shifting self-image. So obviously, if you couldn't tell by me constantly wavering on everything and never being able to make up my mind, that's the cool thing. That's the fun side. Like, it makes for like really interesting comedy, really interesting art, but not that great of a life, you know. Like, we have very impulsive, self-destructive behavior. Okay, that's why my arm looks the way that it does. But we do this because we're trying to understand ourselves, and we're trying to take ourselves out of the pain. And so it's like sometimes we create more pain in order to deal with the original pain, which seems stupid, but to us it makes perfect sense. Extreme emotional swings. This is very prominent as well. How often do you hear people say, he's bipolar? She's bipolar. She's so moody. She's probably not bipolar. She probably has borderline personality. Now, I was on lithium for a while, and that's a mood stabilizer. And it's like it has like the most natural. Now, it has battery acid in it, though. But the thing is, a lot of the stuff that they use to make lithium is like found in Fiji water. I read that somewhere. Maybe that was some hokey article, but I found it interesting. But lithium was really like the only medication that I would say helped me in any kind of way. But Big Pharma hates lithium because they can't fucking patent it. Fuckers, they can't make any money off of it, so it's like worthless to them. But it's like the one drug that actually helps somewhat. But anyway.
Get your ass out of the car. You already late. Come on.
I gotta go. Did I mention the explosive anger? I did. Okay, the last one. Chronic feelings of emptiness. This is what propels me into the suicidal thinking. Now, I'm not going to commit suicide. Don't ever think that. Don't ever think that. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. I don't need help from anyone. But the chronic emptiness is the kicker. Like what I was saying before, depression ain't nothing. I would take depression all day, every day for the rest of my life if I didn't have to feel empty ever again. And it's crazy because of how empty we feel, considering how much emotion we experience, and yet we feel like we can't even express it. Now, I'm specifically talking about quiet borderlines here, but I gotta go into work. One of my managers just yelled at me. Not that that's anything new, but say hi to Dino. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a little heads up on borderline personality. This is the kind of shit that we have to deal with now because this world's ape shit. So I hope that helps somewhat. Maybe I'll have more videos on that. Maybe not. I don't know. Probably. Most definitely. You know you're gonna have more videos on that shit. You can't stop talking about this illness. Alright, yeah. I'll see y'all later. Goodbye.